Anyone who believes in indefinite growth on a physically finite planet is either mad or an economist.
We don't want to focus politics on a notion that involves the rejection of principles around which a large majority of our fellow citizens organize their lives.
We are not as endlessly manipulable and as predictable as you would think.
I think that we are indeed seeing the first impacts of climate change, because the science of climate change tells us very clearly that we are going to experience more extremes of weather, more floods, more droughts, more erratic and extreme weather patterns. And let's just remind ourselves of the climate change indicators around the world. Globally, each of the last 3 decades has been successively warmer than any preceding decades since 1850, when reliable global records began. Also globally, May this year, 2014, was the hottest May on record. 13 of the warmest 14 years on record have all occurred in the 21st century. The only one of the 14 not in the 21st century was in fact in 1998. At the end of the summer of 2012, Arctic sea ice was at its lowest extent, only just over half the average lowest extent from 1979 to 2000. And over the last 2 decades, sea level rise has been around 3.2 millimeters per year, nearly twice the average rate from 1901 to 2010. Those are just a few of the signals of what's happening to our planet. The World Economic Forum has recently published a document setting out the 10 top global risks in their view. 4 of those top 10 global risks are climate-related. They include water crises, failure of climate change mitigation and adaptation, greater incidence of extreme weather events, and food crises. The world of business in fact gets all of this much better than most politicians do. Increasingly, firms around the world are thinking about their preparedness for what climate change is likely to bring. They're looking at possible impacts on their supply chains. They're looking at the resilience of their suppliers, services, and indeed of their customers. They're thinking seriously about the energy, transport, and water use and costs that they have. And, crucially, they are understanding that doing things more greenly is also doing them more cheaply. Why then is the political world not taking this up more vigorously? Well, I think there are a number of reasons. The first is the opposition to the recognition of climate change. The climate skeptics are given far more credence in the public discourse and far more airtime than they really should. The overwhelming scientific consensus is that climate change is real and it's happening. The way in which anything that, for example, Lord Lawson or Lord Ridley say are pounced upon by the media and blown up into some sort of major statement, this is not sound science. Second reason, we thought that the Climate Change Act had it sorted. It was a groundbreaking piece of legislation, but we sort of then gave up. We thought, well, we put that on the statute book, and then as a country we didn't go on to do more. Legislation is only the start. It's action that has to follow. Third reason. Too often, we portray climate change and its consequences as a nightmare. People don't like listening to nightmares. They don't want to believe in nightmares. They want to believe in hope. On the whole, voters vote for dreams, not for nightmares. There is hope. I'm going to come to that in a moment or two. But we need to be better at articulating the debates and discussion around climate change in that context. Fourth, there are some people who regard environmental concern generally, and climate change in particular, as something of a conspiracy of the elite, the chattering classes, the sophisticated, the upper middle classes, not sufficiently connected to all the people of the country. I think they're wrong on that, and I'll say in a moment why I think they're wrong. And there's the fifth point, which is linked to that, and that's that we don't make the environment and climate change real for people, mattering to their everyday lives and their everyday experience. Mention the environment or climate change, and people's eyes tend to glaze over. But talk to them